isn't your typical motorsports podcast. You're listening to Crush This, a monster truck podcast presented by High Octane Coffee and J Concepts. A show where we take you inside the minds of your favorite drivers, past and present, of the monster truck industry. And now, your hosts, Brad Shaw and Dan Chichagash. Buckle in. The show starts now.
Oh, no. I screwed that up. Let's see here. I'm still getting new to that. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry very much about that. Kind of a gap there. My bad. But welcome to Crush This, a Monster Truck Podcast. This is Dan Chichagash. How's it going? Bradshaw's a little bit under the weather, and he's recovering. He told me he had no voice, so that was a big letdown. Not really letdown, but it stinks. So get well soon, Brad. Get your butt back on here next week. And speaking about next week, we're gonna have Blake Shipman. He's a videographer. He does a lot of stuff through Monster Jam, Monster Energy Supercross, a lot of commercials. And we did a bunch of stuff. He did a bunch of stuff whatsoever. Sorry, I was reading the comments, got a little distracted there. My bad. But so he's gonna be on. So he's gonna talk about the videography side of it, the recordings and stuff like that they do, and making those awesome vignettes for Monster Jam and stuff like that. But once again, I want to thank Joseph Esther and High Octane Coffee. If you check his place out in Ohio, pretty good coffee and stuff like that. J Concepts just released the new Bigfoot 2020 Raptor body. Go check a look at that. Go take a look at that. There's a lot. Sorry about that, guys. Go ahead and take a look at that. A lot of cool stuff from J Concepts. JB Scale Graphics, official licensing of Bigfoot Bad Habit, Obsessed, Heavy Hitter, Overkill Evolution, and Against the Grain and other trucks too. It keeps on growing, and they're going to have more product coming in soon. Take a look at that. They also make flags for your RC trucks too. 6B Apparel, they make our crew shirts. Those are still $100 a pop. The New Wave and the old school one. Go ahead and message me or Brad. And so go ahead and do all that, lovin'. Also, Back Channel Productions. They've been doing the videos for them. Monsters of Destruction. Getting ready to do the Renegade Monster Truck Tour. Go ahead and take a look at that too. It's some pretty cool stuff. And trying to look at, if we forget more, Bradley Shaw Designs. He's doing some designs and stuff like that. Coming up for Renegade Monster Truck Tour. One thing I want to say too, a couple of the Facebook groups, one gentleman posted a comment about the podcast and stuff like that. And thank you, fans, for defending me. But feedback is a must. If we're not going to learn anything, if we don't get any feedback and helping us out, we're not, I didn't graduate with a degree in, communications and a degree and all that stuff. I had a degree at, West Virginia College through, the university through marketing. And then I went to automotive school. We're just doing this just for the love of it. There's going to be a lot of ums and okays and stuff like that, but we'll learn and we'll try to keep ourselves a little bit more professional. And we're going to keep on trying, but don't be afraid of speaking your mind and letting us know what we need to do. And that's all that matters. Our guest just left the building. Oh, Jesus. Oh, geez. Hopefully he gets back on here and then we can continue on. But yeah, once again, if you guys have any feedbacks, message us on the Facebook page and let us know what we need to do, maybe better ourselves, and we can go from there. We're if you guys are curious about me and the Hall brothers, we're about to start doing some dealerships and getting some shows in starting in April. If you go to raminator.com, www.raminator.com, there is going to be a schedule up. Go ahead and take a look at the schedule. That's where we're going to be at. Whew, I'm heavy breathing. I'm just kidding, guys. Just got done actually running. So, yes, I ran. So, did not ran to the refrigerator. I actually ran from the shop here and did some training, trying to get myself better for that stuff. And getting ready for a Trigger King event. Trigger King RCs this Sunday. We're going to start our event there at the JB Scale Graphics Stadium, Field, Farm, Lake exhibit. And we'll go from there and race some retros, sport mods, pro mods, freestyle. And a new division will be with the low C LMTs. There's a stock spec class type deal. So that's going to be pretty cool. I'm trying to fine tune my Virginia Giant and Big Boss RC trucks. Right now, my sport mods are pretty good right now on point. I just tested my Wild Side truck. That has some new axles, some TTR axles and stuff like that. So that's going to be pretty cool. And we're going to try some other stuff with Hotsy. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to get Dan back on here. Let's see what's going on here, guys. Oopsies. I'm going to hear feedback. Okay. Gilbert, not too much. Not too much. Like I said, we're just catching up on stuff right now, and we'll go ahead and get the ball rolling. Doing pretty well. The weather's getting pretty good here. It's about the 60s right now, so that's springtime weather. Yesterday was the start of spring. Well, Sunday was. Monday was the 22nd. I think today's the 23rd. And we're going to... it's looking pretty good. So we're just waiting on Dan, and we'll get the ball rolling here. So how's everyone else doing right now? I'm doing pretty well, guys. And take a look at the Bigfoot 3 in the background. What's up, Ken? What's going on, man? Here we go. So he's back on, and I'm gonna do my intro here. This guy was actually kind enough to let me do a school project, and I did a school project, and he was one of the first ones to let me interview him, which was pretty cool because of college. And he's a legend in himself. Makes all the winningest chassis there is right now. An awesome tractor puller also, and makes some awesome parts for the monster truck world. And that's Mr. Dan Patrick. How you doing today, Mr. Patrick?
Well, doing okay. There's a nail and some dirt for me to draw in. I'd be better off.
Oh, I noticed it's you were gone for a little bit, but you got back on, so that's a good thing here. How's everything going in the PEI stable?
Well, we're just slammed right now. I mean, we were busy all last year and preparing, making a lot of stuff and get ready. So when things kind of got back up, and then we sold our current truck, and we're finishing up a new truck that will go out Friday to do Joe Sylvester show down at Horsepower Park or Horsepower Ranch or whatever they call it down there. But anyway, so it's pretty much done. Just got to mount the body on it in the next couple of days, and Rick will be all his way to go this weekend. to get to work the bugs out of that. Hopefully there's no bugs in it, but got truck going to Japan, a truck going to the UK, a lot of parts for customers here. So we're pretty slammed right now.
Gotcha. So let's start from the beginning. And I was always curious about how did you get yourself into the start of tractor pulling? What got you into it? Was it working on motors? What got you kicked onto the world of tractor pulling at first?
Well, I'm a farm boy. I grew up on a farm, fourth generation. And my father and my uncle pulled tractors in the 50s and 60s, and they pulled the tractors that they used on the farm. My uncle had a John Deere B and a John Deere 720. My dad had WD 45 Alice Chalmers, which I still own today. And then later a John Deere 4010. So John Deere 4010 was the first tractor I pulled when I was 12 years old at the county fair. And if I wanted to get involved with motorsports, that would be my only avenue, because that was the family hobby at the time. And so when I became of age, the farm tractors, only one turbo then, but they weren't using, they were using dedicated tractors to pull with instead of what they use in the farms. Then we started putting V8 motors in them. And so my first tractor when I was a senior in high school was a Cockshut 40 with a 402 Chevy big block in it. And that was my first modified tractor. Then that kind of went on to there, and then I ended up going into the multiple supercharged motors later.
Yeah, and you went to the multiple engine tractors and stuff like that, and then you went to the exhibition type pulling. What got you into that, and what got you the idea of creating the Warlord?
Well, what got me into doing the exhibition stuff was the founder of US Hot Rod, which was a gentleman by the name of Bob George. And he was a promoter out of Chicago, and he wanted to bring, because he used to also used to run a drag strip, and then he wanted funny cars that looked like they raced on the drag strip to pull the sled. That's a 2-wheel drive. And so he made me an offer of, he just took a liking to me, made me an offer. He'd pay me X amount of dollars a run if I built this exhibition vehicle. And I did that, and it just took off from there. We ran the Warlord for a year. Then we added the second car, which was called Red Baron the first year. Then in conjunction with Bob George, I worked a deal with Tom McEwen, the drag racer, through Coors Brewery. And that's where the Coors Mongoose Funny Car came into play. And so we did that with Tom for 3 years. So 86, 87, and 88.
That's one of the first cars. I remember having a VHS of a show called, I guess USA had these VHS series called the Monster Truck Blooper Series. And I remember seeing that Coors car a lot. And your Coors and your Keystone Monster Truck and stuff like that. So you were doing that. And how that gotta be pretty cool. I mean, you have the Mongoose pulling car, and then the relation to, the Mongoose drag racing car. Did you tour like different promotions with the Mongoose dragster too at different events?
Well, back then you kind of stayed, the promoters that were kind of promoting you wanted you to kind of stay in their circle. So if you did a lot with US Hot Rod, you really didn't do anything with TNT or USA. So when the Coors thing came to an end, and then after Bob George had passed away, the current owners really wasn't that excited about doing what we were doing. and they were shifting more towards mud racing and also monster trucks. And so USA had got picked up by Coors as a sponsor. And I don't know if it was Coors Light. It might have been Coors brand. They used to have everything separately. We were sponsored by Coors brand. So it was separate from Coors Light, even though it was under the same Coors banner. Different beers had different advertising budgets. So anyway, when Scott Stevens decided he didn't want to do the Coors Light monster truck, the jet truck anymore, he wanted to concentrate on just TNT monster truck racing. That kind of opened the door up to me because I was doing a good bit with USA with the monster truck because, again, it gets back into politics. When I bought the truck from Don Maples, it was one of the very first trucks that had the 88 body style on it. USA was sponsored by Chevrolet Trucks, and so they were looking for trucks that had the new bodies on them. The new Taurus Racer had the new 88 body on it, and Scott's jet truck did. There was only a handful. Most of them were still square bodies. And so the relationship that I had with Coors just kind of rolled into because the program with the monster truck actually was through United Sports. It wasn't directly with Coors, but with my relationship with Coors before, it just kind of rolled into that. And I still work directly with the brewery and United Sports. And I was mostly just doing United Sports shows.
So we'll go fast forward. Yeah, like you said, you already got the Samson 2 truck from Don Maples, and there was a time period where I'm very curious about sponsorship deals, and when you had the truck and you were with USA and Coors, there was a time period where you were like the extra gold, and then I don't know where the Keystone beer truck, and then did they give you a time period of like saying, hey, this is going to be the truck for next year? Or was that Coors going, we're going to put a little bit more money into this beer and we want, to promote that product to the fans?
Well, didn't do that much with it because at that time promoters wasn't running year round like they have been here recently. You ran usually the first 4 months of the year, and then you ran usually some in October and November, and that's about all you did indoors. You didn't, when it warmed up outside, indoor events just didn't happen. They weren't successful, and then they kind of dabbled around with some summer stuff, but it didn't really amount to anything. So anyway, the downside was, we really didn't have, when we did the Coors Extra Gold thing, it really wasn't the Coors Extra Gold Samson and the Keystone Beer Samson. It was just Coors Extra Gold Monster Truck and the Keystone. So outside of anything Coors beer related, we just didn't generate any work. And kind of the same way with the American Gladiator thing, kind of did a little bit more. But so it had its pluses and minuses. You got some money to do it as an enhancement to do it, but you were just you weren't making a name for yourself. You weren't making a brand. So later on, I just made we were going to put Samson back on the truck because that was what we were building, was the Samson brand. So because sponsorships come and go. 1 year it's Coors Extra Gold, the next year it's Keystone Beer, then that went away, and then American Gladiators, that went a couple years. Then you're starting all over. So I just got away from that.
So you went ahead and you got the Samson name. You're getting the product going. Now, since then, you're working with Team Bigfoot on building new trucks and helping out with other people. And then, so what got you into testing the waters of saying your work of building chassis and building parts starting to become a form of a business?
Well, when I got into it in '89, when I bought the truck from Don, or the fall of '88, I'm sorry, um, I was just kind of pushed into it. I was opening up a machine shop, fab shop, and then I ran into some neighbors that wasn't happy with that, and they kind of got me shut down before I even got started. So I put all my eggs in that basket. And then Don Maples called and wanted to buy a trailer I had. And by the time the conversation's over, I ended up buying the monster truck and just kind of went from there, and was going to do that 3 or 4 years until that kind of fizzled out. And of course, it never did fizzle out. But my goal was, when I first started, was I really wasn't making parts. Is right off the bat, when Bob Chandler came to me at Silverdome in April of '89 and asked me about coming to work for him in building trucks. He just knew me from the polling days and some other projects that I was involved in with him, with Play School Toy Company. That's when it rolled into what it kind of became. And so I was there for 3 years. And then I was doing I had my truck there. He gave me a bay to keep my truck in, and gave me the freedom to come and do shows. And so, and that worked out well. The problem is both of it just kept getting bigger and bigger, and I just kept getting thinner and thinner of what I could do. And I started out there doing one job is building chassis. But when I left there, I was building engines, chassis, and I was the shop foreman. And I was just cut so thin, and I wasn't with other employees and stuff. And then it was just better for me to come back to my little place here in Ohio and go from there.
So the one story I heard was when Don Van Loo had his Magnum Force truck, there was some issues with it, and he needed your assistance. Was he one of the first people that purchased or got one of your chassis?
Well, actually, when I left in the spring of '92, Bob gave me a commitment to build 2 chassis. So when I came back, the first 2 chassis I built was for him. I don't know if that was 14 and 15 or whatever. So when it was all said and done, I did 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, which was display truck, 14, 15. I think the one that became 16 was I did a lower half for some project. But anyway, so I did my first stuff coming back was actually for Bob. But for an independent outside of Bob, Don Van Loo was my first technically kind of turnkey truck, which he had built a truck and brought it to the Jamboree in May or June of, I think it's May of '92. It wouldn't pass tech. There were some issues with some stuff. And then Don wanted me to redo it, but it was simpler to just put another chassis under it and take everything he had and put it in the chassis. So that's what we ended up doing. And then that one kind of rolled out of the shop in the middle of July, I think it was. So he would have been like the first one.
So you helped out. You did also, I think you did multiple ones, like Alan Pizzo's truck. I remember correctly, his front 4-link. One thing I wanted to ask, maybe for you in the tech side, is what was the advantage of having a front 4-link setup monster truck, and why is it not being used today?
Well, Fred Schaefer was the first one that kind of utilized that. And I liked that concept. It was just a bear to build, because Alan when we did it for Alan, he brought it back 4 or 5 times before we got the chassis where it would stay stable enough, because it just puts a tremendous load on the chassis because it twisted that thing from front to back. We just had to keep adding bars. And the whole concept about it was, if you look at the old school first generation of 4-link trucks. All of them had their 4-link bars had a lot of angle on them because they were running, mostly at the time, we're running Custer shocks. And Custer shocks are pretty much extended at ride height. And so, and we weren't doing a lot with ramps then. And so when you would hit the cars, they would just go straight up in the air. And so the concept or the theory behind the front 4-link bars going backwards was they trailed instead of push. So when you would hit the cars, it would suck the things up in with the back end, and the trucks would go straight out forward instead of straight up in the air. So that was the theory behind it at the time. Because when I built Alan's truck, it did have Custer shocks on it. And so Alan's truck was the one I did in the fall or winter of 92. And then it ran into the Predator, the body with a 3D body. So, because he came out at the same time we came out with American Gladiator body, because George Link at GTS did the bodies both at the same time. Because when I was there getting mine fitted, Alan's was there to be shipped. So they kind of happened at the same time. But, in that first batch of trucks, we did a truck for Deal Wilson, a cantilever truck. I did a chassis for Everett Jasmer, which he didn't put together. But we did a chassis then. I think we did 5 or 6 that year. Then, in the winter, I didn't do that much as far as building because I was traveling a lot. So most of my building was usually May through the rest of the year. And I just did work in between. I did shows in between when I could.
So what got you to commit on saying, okay, I'm going to build myself a truck? I remember you told me one time, I did an interview with you. Remember, I was in college and you're the very first person I did a videography interview with, and we went to the old shop, and I remember you always said, you have still have the same old while building everyone else's stuff. But, you finally, when did you finally commit in saying, I'm going to build myself my race truck that I wanted?
Well, a lot of it had to do with being able to afford to do it because, we weren't generating much money back then. If you did 22, 23 events for the whole year, that was a pretty big year. But what got me into doing, Fred Schaefer one time said something to me. He says, you're building everybody all these, high tech trucks at the time, but you still run a spring truck. And so I got a commitment for the year of 94 from George Carpenter when he was doing special events, the Penda series, that if I build a new truck, they'd give me a guaranteed spot. Because back then they guaranteed 10 spots and then there was 2 open spots. So you could qualify because, they weren't going to do all open spots because if you only had 3 or 4 trucks there, you couldn't put on a show. So they did 10 guaranteed spots to guarantee a show. And then they would put 2 open spots so anybody could come. And so that worked out. There was usually 14 or 15 trucks came and a few didn't make it. But, or there'd be a couple that would stand by waiting for the trucks to break. And then they would slide into a spot. But, and also USA wanted me to get more exposure and with American Gladiator thing. So we did that going into it. That was going to be American Gladiator body on it. And then, of course, American Gladiators wouldn't let me put Samson on the body because they owned all the names to their talent, Turbo, Sky, and all that. And so it was just the American Gladiator monster truck. So when I went to Lima for the first show, that was televised. We didn't do all that well, but in hindsight, we did really well for working 3 solid days nonstop, 24 hours a day. and literally at 10 o'clock in the morning, or no, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, put it in the trailer to get to Lima by 4 to qualify at 6. And so, so anyway, so we did that. And then I was getting no financial help at all from American Gladiators. And so I just decided that if I'm going to put this money in myself, then it's going to be a Samson truck. So we went to Bloomsburg. It said Samson on it. Then it just stayed there from there on.
Gotcha. And we got our first fan question. It's Mr. Isaac Ankrum. And he was wondering, does cradle length have any factors to how a truck suspension will work?
Not so much as far as I did it when I stretched the cradle out. Jerry Richmond had done it before with a truck he built for Marty Garza. When I worked at Bigfoot, we had like 66-inch long 4-link bars, and we went through 4-link bars like you wouldn't believe. We started out with 2-inch 250 wall. And I think when I left there, we were doing 2.5-inch 250 wall, which is pretty common still to this day. But we were constantly bending forward. And my theory behind shortening up the 4-link bars was, if you have suspension that travel in the back that say, we'll just use a number of 30 inches, and you have suspension travel in the front, a little bit shorter. At that time, we were doing 20s. Why do you need such a long 4-link bar? And so I redesigned things, laid things out in the shop, and I didn't have the computer stuff like Bob did, and so my stuff was trial and error, and then mocking up things and building them and seeing how they worked. And so I decided when I built the truck, I wanted the 4-link bars to be parallel at ride height. So kind of going back to the theory of, with the long bars that were not parallel and the 4-link bars that came from the front to the rear, the reverse ones in the front, I thought the thing would fly out and nice and straight and keep the truck from getting that too much in the air, because you can't win races when the truck's just hanging up. I decided that the 4-link bars didn't need to be that long, so we shortened them up to 52 on the bottom and 53 on the top, which is still the standard, which is now the standard industry. I didn't plan that when I did it in '94. Just ended up that way because we just at that time was building so much, and it just worked out that way. But so I don't think it really matters that much. I think you can make them too short, of course, but like this new truck we're doing now, we cycle it through. We like to have the right height about parallel or a little bit above, running uphill a little bit, a couple inches. And I think that makes the truck work a lot better. And then you don't have to worry about having really long 4-link bars.
And then there is some trucks also that have like, I know one of the Anderson boys, their trucks have 48 long bars on the truck. Now, does that help make the truck square, or how does that go when trucks run the same length on top and bottom? Can you hear me, Dan?
I don't think it matters there. It's all about the cycle. I mean, some guys do it. I mean, the digger truck they may have 52s or 53s on the top I don't think they're any shorter than that because those trucks are. Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
You still there, Cheech?
Yep, I'm still here. I'm still here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Dan?
Well, you
A
mentioned
little bit,
about
probably. There's
the Andersons and okay. Yeah.
okay. All right.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, geez. Maybe there's something going on my end here. Well, my camera went to crap, so now all you can do is hear me. I don't know what just happened. But okay. Oh, I'm back on. All right, good. So one curious story I wanted to know is, when Feld or Pace or SIR back in the day, kind of purchased the digger and they started making that push in the 2000s. They got a lot of your trucks being made, and how did that come about? Because I mean, your Patrick trucks were pretty much like C32 and had a lot of names that were going to be pretty much become the standard now for Monster Jam. How did that relationship come about between you and Mike Wells and all them from SRO Pace, now Feld?
Well, Brian Welch was the first one that approached me, and that was about building some like trophy trucks, things like that. That they wanted to, when they were doing that kind of like the Mickey Thompson type racing, that they did for a little bit, and then it just kind of rolled into monster trucks instead of that. And then within a short period, Mike Wells had taken over that program, and I knew Mike from the Liquidator days, and and stuff. So I just became more of the uh, component guy for them. Rear ends, housing, and so probably 80% of the truck is still got our components on it. So we just kind of shifted that direction. Even though the truck we're finishing up now is chassis 130, I think that's an accomplishment for a small business that we've never ever had over 4 people at any time to produce what we produce.
That's pretty cool stuff right there. And Ken Nowinski is on here. Oh, and he is gone. Sorry about that, folks. There's some service going on in Ohio. There's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of a not say middle of nowhere, farmland. It's kind of hard getting service and stuff like that. Ken, I was about to bring up your thing about your personal favorite monster moment, but hopefully he gets on here soon. And if you have any more questions, folks, feel free to ask. I'll go ahead and ask away for you, and go from there. Frank, I know you had one question about how he became up with the Samson name. The Samson truck was actually owned by Don Maples, and then he told a story about how he got the truck, and he was gonna sell a trailer, and then out of nowhere, somehow he got a truck. I was gonna ask him your second question about the arms and how did that idea come about, and who created that idea. So when he gets back on, I'll go ahead and ask that question for you. But if anyone else wants some questions to ask, feel free, and I will ask them for you. And please be clean and generous and respectful. So we'll just wait a little bit for him to be on. Yeah, Frank, I tell you what, hopefully all this stuff comes to an end, and then we'll get the ball rolling and be doing some stuff like up in New York and stuff like that, and go from there. You know, can't wait to get the ball rolling. And Dan just messaged me. Right now, Gregory, the Fantasy series, I don't know if it's ever going to come back. They had the Pro MT for a while. That was 3 years and it was over with. But I don't know. The four-wheel drive Jamboree is under a new ownership in a company called Bonnier. They're a magazine owning company, and right now they have probably their own idea what's going on. We'll hopefully see what's going to be in the future for them, Gregory, with the four-wheel drive Jamborees. Oh, updates on my RC fleet. The Virginia Giant, my retro, which is a funny story. If you watch the Sugar King video, first run rolled it. But it landed on rolled on the carpet, so that's a cool thing. It didn't roll on the tile, so that I didn't want that to happen. But it got new shocks. The Big Boss replaced the shock angles on the truck. Not downgrade, but took the Kyosho tires off and put some gold gears on them. Wildside got some new axles, got some TTR axles in that, so that thing's gonna be ready to go. Executioner and Carolina Crusher I just left alone. I think they're pretty good in the. We'll see how it goes. I did a little bit of a tire change. I'm gonna try a different compound on Wild Side compared to Hotsy. Speaking of which, Isaac, we got to go to Checkered Flag hobby shop this weekend. I ordered a Rebel body for Hotsy, so we got to go pick that up on Saturday. No, Mike, I haven't heard anything about the jamborees and monster trucks. We don't even know. Even Joey doesn't know what's going on yet. So hopefully we'll get some news here soon. But yeah, I'll tell you what, Frank. It's kind of can't wait. Starting in May, we're gonna get our show rolling here, and like I said before, if you go to www.raminator.com, we have the schedule. So if you want to take a look at that, check that out. You're more than welcome to. It's under appearances. But pretty much that's about it, Isaac, on the RC thing. Like I said, we're getting ready. I'll see you Friday. So, okay. So Dan's back. So let's go here. Hey, Dan. Hey, Dan. Can you hear me?
Hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, let me put my earbuds in here.
Okay.
Me, Cheech.
All right, I hear you.
Okay, let's try this. I'm on back on my iPad.
Okay. Can you hear me good?
Well, fair.
Fair.
So I don't know what's going on here. I mean, we just have such sucky internet out here in the country, so it's probably that.
I'm in an apartment, so my internet's sometimes sketchy. I think sometimes I'm still trying to look at, trying to find a lock for it. I think people's been using my internet, but it is what it is. So I had a question here from Frank. I'm gonna screw up your last name, bud, but the question is, who came up with or what was the idea, or who came up with the idea to have the iconic muscle arms on the front of your truck?
Well, that was actually through Samuel Goldwyn Television, which is MGM. The muscle thing was done around the television show American Gladiator. So they wanted a theme truck. That's when the 3D bodies first came out. Snakebite, and then of course with us with American Gladiators, then Alan Pizzo with Predator was your early ones. So we wanted to do something again when you're trying to make a name for yourself and want something what people will like. And at that time, we sold merchandise at the venues and did pretty well with it until that was taken away from us because the promoter wanted to make all that money and not give it to us. So that's where it came from back in 90. We brought it out the first weekend of January in 93 at Salt Lake City at the Delta Center. So that's what that was designed around, was for the television show American Gladiators.
Now the year following you kept the arms, and then you had the 88 to 98 body, then had different changes, but the paint schemes of your trucks have ranged from the iconic red, white, and blue to the late 90s of the Samson theme, blue, to today's scheme itself what or who, or was it you that come up with the ideas of the Samson paint job?
No, usually it was based around we were having paint them at the time. When we were doing the one when we started doing the high end paint jobs, which was the $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 paint jobs in the late '90s. Those were done by a gentleman named Chuck Butler that Dale Wilson was using at the time to paint his, or painted all of Dale's trucks actually. He was out of the East Coast, did a lot of funny car stuff, a lot of high end show car stuff. So that one was, of course, we never had time to devote to those kind of paint jobs because we were always running behind or running right up against a deadline of some kind. And of course, there was a lot of money to do at the time, but we had got a job for Rockwell Automation to do a display at Opryland Theater or Opryland Park at the convention center for Rockwell Automation when we were using a little PC that they developed to run machines. We were actually using it to shift the transmission, or Lenco transmission in the Penda series. So they wanted me to come and display for 2 days. And they didn't want to take no for an answer. And we were supposed to go to Curacao and Aruba for a month and race. And they wanted me so bad at that display that they bought out my contract to go there for a month and race. So I took that money and completely took the truck apart because they gave me a month to do it. And completely took the truck apart and redid it, powder coated everything, put a new body on it, and had this paint job and everything done. And so that's kind of where that started with those types of paint jobs. And today, actually, we're picking it up tomorrow. We did a wrap on the last truck, and I've never been a guy that likes to wrap stuff, but the paint jobs now are going to be like we used to do, or $10,000, $12,000, and we just can't justify that for a truck. You're going to go out there, and who knows, when it's going to be on its roof, how long the body's going to last. We try to get a good bit out of them, but this one that's coming out tomorrow is actually the Warlord themed body. It says Samson on it, but it is the same paint scheme that we did with the Warlord funny car in 1984.
So it's going to be black?
It will be, we call it tribal, but it's going to be, I really don't know what all it's going to be, Cheech, because this is kind of a Rick and Allison thing, and mostly Rick thing. So it's going to be some purples, and who all knows? I have no idea. I saw the artwork and I liked it, and people I've showed it to like it. So I'm pretty excited about it. And then the gentleman that did our last artwork for what we still have that body, he had did it, he had done the rendering and stuff on it. But we did about 4 different paint designs. We did one with a lot of blues and stuff in it, like what our current transporter is. Then we did a retro American Gladiators Stars and Stripes theme one. So who knows what will show up this summer.
So another question I didn't ask about the paint schemes is, did a lot of artists try to base your truck around the arms? I mean, yeah, the 3D arms are the one of the key parts of the truck, but did a lot of the guys that designed your paint schemes try to work around having the idea of arms? Like, like try to throw in the 3D arms and stuff.
Well, the arms pretty much stay relatively the same as far as we don't want to get them too busy. We always put the U.S. patent thing on it, looked like a tattoo because we do have the arms patented. And then, so I'm pretty open, at least with the painters I've used. The last one that we used, Aaron Lynch here close to us. And then again, Chuck Butler. I leave it up to them because they're the professionals. And so I give them my rules, and my rules is no blood, no tattoos. Outside of that, no skulls, I tell them. Outside of that, they're on their own. And it is kind of a biblical theme, because of Samson and the strength and, from the Bible. We try not, we don't get into it as a religious thing. It's just that, and I don't mean that in any kind of way. We try not to make it biblical, but it is a biblical character. So we kind of try to stay neutral with that. And so it's just a thing about strength and because, the names, if you look back into the early parts of monster truck history, the trucks were usually names of strength. Hercules, Goliath, Samson, Bigfoot, Barefoot, they all had strength names. Then they became, kind of rolled into things. Now it's more attitude things and kind of in between. So you can almost tell how old a truck is by its name.
And also, the bodies too. Like with those arms that you have on Samson, can those fit basically on any Chevy body? So if the truck debuts in a new 2014 or stuff like that, the arms will just fit good on there, correct? You guys probably make it on there anyway, but
see, the front clip, when we made the thing originally, because of the cost of what it takes to build these 3D bodies, the shoulders bolt to the cab, and then the front clip is all one piece. And so originally, the first front clip was, like in, early 90s, or the 88 to 98 Chevy front clip. But later, the one we have now it's a 2006. That's the body style we like the best. When I did one that went to Australia, I did a 2000 and whatever it was at the time, 12 or 13, I don't remember. I didn't like it. It was too boxy. It looked like I was going to haul freight in it, not race it. And so that was the only body we ever did like that. And so when we have new bodies made, the grill is a 2006, the front bumper is a 2006, and the rest of the body is a 2000. And we figured if Gravedigger can have the same body for 50 years, then we're going to run the same body. Now, if we do something outside of Samson, we'll do whatever. But I just like the look of that body style.
Right. And another cool thing I always liked about you guys are I always call it the Hemi Club. The Hall brothers, you and Dale Wilson, and I think a couple other trucks up in Canada have it. What got you? I know the Hemi with the pulling and stuff like that, but what got you intrigued to put that in your monster truck and now still keep it to this day?
Well, Fred would have been the first one, Fred Schaefer, as far as there were a couple other guys with Hemis that weren't all that successful. Fred was an old drag racer, so when he got the Dodge deal there, in the early 90s and stuff, or late 80s, early 90s, and he went from the Chevrolets to the Hemis. He actually was running what I had already been running, because I had Hemis all the way back to 84. And my first Hemis came when I did the Coors Mongoose thing. I always wanted to run Hemis, but couldn't afford it. The initial cost is quite higher on on the Hemis versus the Chevrolets. But the longevity is longer and the maintenance cost is way cheaper than a Chevy. I mean, I still have a block goes all the way back to 1984. I mean, they're just kind of, I won't say they're not indestructible, but you know, they'll take a beating a lot better than a Chevrolet will over time. But anyway, when I was pulling the funny cars, I had the Keith Black Beanie Head Hemis in them. And so when I got into monster trucks, again, you gotta understand when you know, back in the day, we were all struggling, you know, by pennies to build these trucks. So, you know, when we got into this Penda thing, you know, I did it for 3 years and it damn near broke me. Even though it was only 5 weekends a year. I mean, by the time I got done at the end of 3 years, I mean, I owed $80,000, you know, for when I spent on racing. And it took me quite a while to recoup that, you know, doing shows and building and all that. So don't think that, you know, just because we were doing it, we were just all just, you know, had deep pockets to do it. I mean, we were all scrambling to try to, you know, to get there. And so, but when I built the first one, my first race truck, actually, it had a Chevrolet in it. And then I pulled it out and put the Hemi in it before I raced it. And so it was going to be a Chevrolet with a Turbo 400. And by the time it was over, I took a Hemi out of one of my pullers and put in there and put a slipper clutch in it. And you know, a 3-speed Lenco, because back then we were gearing up for racing. We didn't care about freestyle. We were gearing up for racing.
Right. Yeah, because you know, like a lot of people know that, you know, you're the first one to go sub 5 seconds in Bloomsburg, and the story behind that, and it was pretty cool how fast these trucks were going, and then also how they were. And Isaac had another question, which is today, why did the trucks get away from cantilever suspension? Is the long travel not needed because of the progression of modern shock technology?
No, we quit racing, and that's the bottom line. You know, we quit racing. Cantilever trucks were very high maintenance. The shocks were constantly had to rebuild shocks because we would have to run 700-800 pounds of nitrogen pressure in them versus 300 to 350 pounds that they use on the straight up shocks. And you know, at the time when we did the cantilever stuff, you know, there was only 20-inch shocks available to us. And then, you know, as later we started building our own shocks, or other people were building shocks before I started, you know, building my own shocks. I mean, I built my own shocks when I built my first truck. I just didn't sell them to anybody. And so we're running 20-inch shocks on the front, 20-inch shocks on the back with the cantilever. And I had a 2-to-1 ratio on the back, but I limited it to 36 inches. So in a stadium, a cantilever truck was just awesome. Outdoors, the same way. In an arena, not so much, because the vehicle reaction time was so slow that a guy with a smaller motor and automatic could beat me in a 20 foot to the cars, over 4 cars, and that was it. I mean, but if you gave me 20 more feet to take off, then it was a whole different story. But so that was, I mean, I built one for Alan Pizzo. I built one for Don Frankish. You know, the problem was, you know, they got away from them because there was just too much maintenance. And, you know, I always carried 8 spare shocks for the rear, and it was nothing for me to have to change shocks out over the weekend because the seals would bypass, and then the shocks, you know, instead of me rebuilding them, I just replaced them and then come home and rebuild them.
Well, that's and you ran the cantilever for quite some time, until what, the mid 2000s?
Yeah, I built 2 trucks with cantilevers. I built the first one when I ran 94 through 2003. So I did what I thought was a more refined second cantilever truck. And I kind of beefed up and redesigned things that were happening because there was a lot of stress on the chassis with the cantilevers. You were constantly kind of chasing things. And I had that truck down to about 9,200 pounds there at the end. And then when I did the second cantilever truck, I just beefed things up or made them a little heavier throughout. And then the truck was too rigid. It didn't work as well. And so after 3 years of that, I sold that truck to Clive Featherby in Australia. And when I built that truck, I'd already put shock mounts on it for traditional shocks. So I took the cantilever brackets off of it and sold it to Clive as a traditional truck. And I still have those parts in the shop today. Rick would like to have a cantilever truck, but if we were going back to real racing outdoors, I'd put together a cantilever truck in a heartbeat. A lot more fun to drive. They're great in a obstacle course like Rich Schaefer used to build with Monster Truck Challenge and the MLMT thing. It was a great package. And once we got rid of when racing became non-important, we just quit doing it.
Gotcha. Now with talking about you built a lot of your parts and stuff like that when you're from the start. Now you're selling a lot of the stuff. Now can basically, if a person had the money, they can go to your shop and basically buy the parts that you have, and they can build a complete monster truck from all your parts and technology, correct?
Yeah. I mean, we have that. We call it truck in a box. They don't want to pay us to put them together, but they're more than glad to pay us once they have to start putting them together themselves and realize everything it takes to put them together. They realize we're not too far off on price to do that. We rather sell a truck in a box, but like right now with the truck we're actually sending to the United Kingdom is a CRD chassis that a gentleman bought a couple years ago, and we're furnishing everything to put on that truck that comes from us. And when he gets it, he should be able to bolt everything on that truck and just put it together. So like I say, we sell a lot of kits where we do the chassis, all the components that go on it, as far as what we make. And then, and then we sell a lot of stuff where people are building their own. A lot of our stuff fits. The CRD chassis fits what we used to call the in-house chassis, and the chassis Eddie builds and Paul Cohn builds. All of our stuff will pretty much bolt on their shop.
And you said, and also people can buy a turnkey, pretty much turnkey monster truck also, correct?
They can, yes. I mean, we've done, I think 80 over the years, 80 turnkey monster trucks where they drive them out of the shop and ride in the trailer and go do a show.
Man, I remember when you built, well, now it's Corey and Jay Snyder's Toxic, but when you built the Toxic truck for the Petries, that was a turnkey truck, wasn't it?
That's a sister truck to the one we just sold. That one was built in July of 2010. And actually, until we did this ride truck last year for Dale Wilson, that's the first turnkey truck we have built since 2010. And ironically, my truck, when we sold it, that was the last turnkey truck we had done before we did this ride truck last year. So 10 years went without us doing turnkey trucks. And we'll do them. I prefer not to, but we will do them. It's the problem we have doing it is it takes as much time to put one together as it does to actually manufacture it. And I like for the customer to put them together themselves, because then they know what they have and how to work on it. And then, we're there for them. They can call and ask any question, no matter if they think it's an unimportant question or an embarrassing question. You don't know until you ask, and we'll walk them right through everything, how to put it together and what to look for and what to check to make sure everything fits the way it's supposed to.
Man, that's pretty cool. It's I mean, also one thing is, one of our sponsors is J Concepts, and they are one of the leading groups in innovation of solid axle monster truck RCs. And one open house, they debuted a RC body version of your truck, Samson. Have you seen people recreating your truck, and how do you think of those?
I don't see, many. I know there's a few out there. I don't know how many is there. I know Parma did a body run a few years back, but I didn't see where that kind of went to. That was through Bari. But with Jason and Fred there at, JC Concepts, stuff like that, I know that, we're doing some things with them. But, I'm embarrassed to say, I don't know much about the RC world other than, when they come to the shop and stuff. And I'm amazed at, the technology with them and all the cool stuff you could buy, that it's made for them. So I kind of wish we were at that level, with the size of stuff we make. So Dan Wyatt has painted some stuff, and they showed up with one that I think Dan painted, or they did a wrap, I think, on one when they were here a year or so ago when they unveiled the thing. It looked really awesome. But last year, because of the COVID thing, we weren't able to have our open house. So hopefully this year, when we have our open house, those guys will be back and we'll see more of that.
Any news about the open house? Is there a date or anything? We had a couple people asking about that.
We are planning, barring any kind of disaster, it would be the last week of September, and I don't know what that date is. I want to say it's around the 25th, somewhere around there. We were going to do it on, I think, October the 3rd, which is our normal thing, but there's another commitment that came up that we have to do. So we moved it to the last weekend of September. And then we'll have our new Samson ride truck. We'll be there. And I'm sure we'll have Deal Wilson with the Virginia Giant back with his. We have when we have really awesome crowds, even when the weather is not the greatest, we still have awesome crowds. But in 19, we had upwards of 5,000 people that came through in 6 hours, which we were just blown away that we had that kind of reception.
I always like the antique tractors, and some people bring their pullers in there, and then a lot of guys bring their monster trucks. And I know the last few times I was there, a lot of some guys debuted their monster truck there too. I remember Jester did that, and a couple others. So I mean that and it's also cool to take a look at your shop, and now it's starting to look like a campus. Pretty soon to be Patrick University, but there's like a bunch of different buildings around, and still it's a pretty cool event to go to.
Well, sadly, that we need another building. The one building, the powder coating building, is tied up. I mean, that's we have a huge oven in there. We can do a complete truck in there now, and plus the spray booth is in there. So I mean, that's a 60 by 60 building that's clear full of that kind of stuff. Then we have The Fab Shop now is 3,500 square feet, I think it is now, and we actually need to add on to that. So we actually need another building, and I know that sounds odd, and of course the neighbors aren't going to be happy about that, but still. But we try to keep a nice, clean look here. We like people to come down the road and not really knowing what we're doing here. Almost everything is inside. We have nothing setting outside. Our transporters are inside. Coach and all that other stuff is inside. So it makes it sometimes difficult to get around inside because you have to walk around so much stuff to get here and there. But that's what we do to keep keep our neighbors happy.
So this was also talked about by my boss, Tim Hall, which is a good friend of you. And he told me to ask you about, you were in a rock band. Is this true?
Long time ago, I was in a rock band in high school. We were legendary here in the Tri-County area, So today it's called classic rock. Back then it was current rock. So we did a lot of, Mountain, Cream,
The Doors.
Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Steppenwolf. So anything late 60s, early 70s. So, and ironically, is the guy that played lead guitar lives next door to me now, and we kind of get together a little bit. But one thing that has changed in the 40 years since I played, I've destroyed my hands between machining and fabricating. There's not a finger that doesn't have one or two scars. It's been smashed or been broke. And so my guitar skills have diminished really a lot. And so, but I still play the bass guitar a good bit. And then I do have a 1959 Hammond B3 that I play a little bit here and there. But when I get really, really busy, I kind of went back to playing a good bit last year during the pandemic when I had a little bit more time. And sadly, since I don't have any time now, I haven't been playing, but I really did enjoy playing with my neighbor Greg and brought back old memories and stuff. And so we always joke about getting the band back together, but he and I were the only surviving members of the band. Sadly, our others have passed on. But I will say this, of all the things that I've done, I enjoy that. What few years we did it, I enjoyed that immensely and look fondly back on that. At the time, I couldn't do music and do motorsports at the same time because I just didn't have the funds to do that. And so I sold off some of my stuff, and then I started buying motor parts and tractor parts and things like that, and kind of went from there. And ironically, I still have 3 guitars from that era that have come out to be quite valuable now. And it wasn't by design. I just kept them. And so anyway, so yeah, that was something that I enjoy. And I've bought a lot of amplifiers throughout the country. I collect custom amps, and I remember I called Jim Kohler if he would go somewhere in Michigan to pick one up for me, and he was just shocked that I had that history.
And I notice you're the third one that talked about instruments and music. Mark Hall, obviously he collects guitars. He says he's a pretty good noisemaker, but he collects guitars left and right. And then I did an interview with Jim Kramer, and he now rebuilds and puts together amplifiers and equalizers and stuff like that for his son's band. And it's pretty cool how the stories that you guys talk about the music side of things, because I never was a really good guitarist. My dad was a drummer. I played the saxophone, and I enjoyed a lot of some of the 80s music that they were in. And then I play drums myself, so it's just and Christian Norman, and he's a drummer. He'll play as much Rush as he can, and you know. I tried when I was younger, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I found out how good he is. So I left that at that. But
Yeah. I think you set your sights a little too high there, you know.
yeah, but it's just it was pretty cool to hear the stories about that. And was there one song that you always wanted to play that you had a rough time playing but finally mastered?
Oh gosh, you know, I'm a huge, huge Tom Petty fan. I mean, anytime you get my Suburban going down the road, it's going to be on Tom Petty radio. And I wasn't that much of a fan in the early days. I'm not into lyrics and things like that. I just enjoy the music part of it. I'm a huge Boston guy, and of course, you know, Boston would be kind of like you with Stevie Ray Vaughan. That's a pretty high bar because that was very complicated music at the time. But not so much. Here's the thing with me. I don't really enjoy sitting around and just playing with nobody else around because I don't get all that motivated. So it's like when I do get to play with my neighbor and stuff like that, a couple hours here, a couple hours there. It just depends. I'll really work hard on perfecting a certain song, and then I'm also not the quickest. I'm not the quickest learner, so it takes a while. But once I get there, it's locked in. Um, so, and I don't have the greatest attention span, so I get to wandering off, kind of like I did in grade school.
But when you locked in that song, you locked it in, and I was
Yeah, I
never a
mean,
really good.
I
Go ahead, Dan.
well, the thing is, when Greg and I started playing again here a while back, we kind of put together an old set that we played back in the early '70s and stuff. And you know, we did a lot of James Gang then, you know, when Joe Walsh was the James Gang. So we did a lot of that. And so we just sat down and kind of was guessing what we used to play. And then, you know, he plays every day. He's got a studio in his house and stuff, and he's got a lot of cool gadgets. And he's got way more guitars than I do, but I have way more amplifiers than him. I think I'm up to like 15 custom amps now, and then I have, and one kind of is my kind of pride and joy, but not by design. I had bought Greg and I used to go when we were in high school every Thursday night. We would go to the local music store after school, and we would play and we would trade guitars. You know, we might trade for $50 for this or $50 for that. You know, back then a Stratocaster, you know, a good nice Stratocaster was $325, you know, which seemed huge then. You know, now they're, you know, can go range anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000. But I bought this used Gibson Firebird 12-string guitar, and I paid $100 for it. And it got damaged in one of our moves. Somehow it didn't have a guitar case, and the neck got broke. And, you know, wasn't here a year and a half ago when I was having all my guitars redone, cleaned and redone and restrung and checked, had the necks all checked and everything. I took this guitar to this guy and I said, would you fix this guitar? And he goes, well, I don't know if it's worth anything or not. And he looked it up and he come back and says, yeah, we can fix that guitar. And I says, why? He showed me that guitar was pretty rare. They only made a handful of them, and it's a 67 Firebird, and it's a blue, and they didn't make very many of them, and they were going anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000 on the, on Marketplace. So we had it repaired. Now it's not worth that, but it's worth a hell of a lot more than $100 I paid for it. So
Right.
So that's my 401k plan. Okay, so there's that.
What got you intrigued with amplifiers?
Well, when I was 15, 16 years old, it's kind of like when I got into the motorsports and stuff and motors and things like that, with motor stuff like that, I looked at the national dragsters and saw what people were racing, what kind of fuel injection they were using and distributors and this, that, and the other. And when I got into supercharged motors, but, back then, when we went to the music stores like that, they would always have, before social media and all that, they would have posters all over the place with the current bands of the time, Creedence and, Fleetwood Mac and Fender or Custom or Gibson. Of course, everybody made amplifiers then. Sun, Vox, and all those would have these promotional posters of, what the bands used. And so a big deal back in the later 60s was custom amps, which was, the ones that have the Naugahyde covers that roll and pleated, and they were different colors and things like that. So my first I had a homemade amp to start with, and my first guitar was a Silvertone guitar bought from Sears, that the strings seemed like they were 2 inches from the frets. Your fingers would hurt when you played it. And then when we started getting into the better stuff, the Gibsons and the Fenders and Gretsch's and stuff like that, easy playing stuff. But back in the amplifiers, my first professionally bought amplifier was a custom bass amp. Excuse me, that was blue, had the blue Naugahyde on it. And so it's kind of like anything else. You kind of get a fixation towards a certain brand that kind of like between Chevrolet, Ford, or Chrysler, whatever. You just decide, this is my amplifier of choice, and this is what I'm going to buy. And so, I had a blue one, a black one, a silver one. We just kind of traded all the time. So now the thing is, I don't need 15 amplifiers. So I go from, now I consider myself a collector, and that gives me the excuse to buy more because I'm a collector. Okay. And so now I have, the upstairs is clear full of stuff. And, of course, they're all large amps, they have, each cabinet has 3 15s in it or 2 15s in it. And I think I added up the other day, I think if you put them all together, I have all over 40 15-inch speakers upstairs. So I could probably rattle a few chains if I really wanted to. And but I really enjoy it, and it kind of takes me out of, sadly, I relax and I really enjoy doing it. My wife's not all warm and fuzzy about it, but she complained to my friend Greg. He says he's got 15 amps, and his excuse was, that's a good start.
That's a good start.
And so that, and like I say, he has lots of guitars. He has a lot of Fender Strats and Telecasters, and he has some Paul Smith Reeds or small, I don't know if that's right, Paul Smith Reed or small, however that is. He's got some very nice stuff, and I have some really nice guitars too. But my gem is my '59 Hammond B3 organ that I bought in 1980 that I've had all these years. So that's kind of my crown jewel of my collection.
Yeah, I remember Mark was telling me, I'm not very good at guitar names, but he had one, I guess, was something to do with Stevie Ray Vaughan and then Van Halen, his guitar, I guess, and we were always interested in the stories.
Well, Van Halen's his stuff was, yeah. I mean, the thing is, Stevie Ray Vaughan was pretty much a Stratocaster guy and mostly Strats, and I mean they even make guitars. They call it Stevie Ray Vaughan's models and stuff that he did. And then I'm not sure on Eddie Van Halen. The 80s bands, those guys didn't play mostly traditional like Gibson Gretches and Fenders and stuff like that. They were more into and I can't pronounce all the names. And again, I'm not an expert by any means in the field of everything that's out there. I know when I get my catalog from Sweetwater, the music shop there in Fort Wayne, Indiana, it's about thickness, twice the thickness of a Uline catalog. And so there'll be literally 100 pages of different guitars in there. One of my bucket list is I would like to have a 12-string Rickenbacker, just for the simple fact is, being a Tom Petty fan, they used them a lot, and they got a lot of their sound that they have came from that. So, I mean, the bass guitar that I bought brand new when I was 16 years old, I still have, which is a Les Paul studio bass. That they only made for a few years. They're very heavy. So when you were back then, where you're playing those 4-hour gigs, at the end of the night, they felt like you had cement blocks wrapped around your neck because they were really heavy. And then, and I have some custom Les Paul 6 strings too, 12-string acoustics and 6-string acoustics. So I mean, I can have my own band upstairs. I just got to have the players. I did have a full set of drums, and I decided I'm not going that route. So I gave those to a studio in town and told them if there was a young man or young girl that came through there that had a lot of talent but didn't have the means to have, to afford the equipment to find a home for these, and to give that child a good start in music, because music was a huge part of my growing up. My parents were unbelievable organists and pianists and vocals. And, when I was younger, got drugged to piano lessons and all that. I didn't really want to. My sister is a year and a half older than me, so anything she was involved in, I got drugged too. So she was a good pianist. And I was fair. I just, again, was focused on other things that really wasn't what I wanted to do. Sadly, later on, I wish I had the talent that my parents had. My dad could just sit down and just play anything by ear and put a little ragtime with it. He could take gospel and put a little ragtime with it, and you could just sit and listen to him play for hours. And usually when he played in his underwear. He just sat there in a pair of underwear, buck naked, except for his shorts, and played for hours.
Now, since you collect a lot of amps and guitars and stuff, did you ever get yourself into like buying some like pedals and stuff like that? Equalizers and stuff?
No. I mean, I have some stuff. I mean, I have, ironically, when you mentioned about Jay Snyder, I found a nice set of custom PA speakers in Washington, D.C. last winter. And I asked him if he would go over and pick them up for me. And then he took them to Rick Disharoon, and then Rick Disharoon bought them to me. So I got this little network of transportation where I get all this stuff basically brought to me, and I get it kind of snuck in here without my wife seeing it. When she goes upstairs, I think she writes it down, takes pictures and writes down what's there on what date. Then maybe a month later, she'll go up there and find that there's new additions to the what's there. But what I did, there was just the cabinets. There wasn't the PA with it. And so I bought a PV. It came from a gospel group here not too far from me. And it was just a mixing board and stuff like that. So, I mean, I have all that stuff. I don't know how to use it. I just have it. It just looks cool.
Yeah. I knew one guy, one of my friends, He was a event director for Monster Jam, and he was a huge uh, fan. Once again, Stevie Ray Vaughan, he played that stuff, but he collected pedals. He was into that stuff. The different synthesizers and equalizers and stuff like that to make the noises and stuff. He really liked how you can make different moods, I guess, with the guitar. And outside of just string playing, you can use the additional help for making a tune. And I always like asking that to other fellow musicians.
Well, the thing is, back in the day, you had two pedals. You had a wah-wah pedal, and you had another, I think, a fuzz pedal or something like that. And that's kind of it. And then, now, like I said, in that Sweetwater catalog, there must be 20 pages or 30 pages of pedals in there. It's just amazing what you can do. Or you can buy basically a mini synthesizer deal where you can just do it all there. But again, I like my stuff pretty simple, plug in and go. And then, so, I mean, it's changed a lot, with Pro Tools and all this other stuff. It amazes me, what you can do. Drum machines, we have that. So like you can just set a beat and just kind of just start playing, I do a lot of blues and stuff like that. I know blues is relatively easy to play, but it's fun to set and just relax, sit back in the chair and next thing you know, you've been doing it for 2 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was hearing it now you can pretty much record your own music on iPad. That's how crazy technology is. Like you said, you can do everything and pretty much on a laptop or a iPad.
Well, but it still doesn't. It takes away from the old thing about why I like to play. It's when you're just jamming with somebody else, and just two of you are sitting there and just kicking back, and just do it. And and we joke about, and we kind of reminisce as we're doing it and things. And the whole thing is different now. It's not that pressure of one up or anything like that. You just play because you enjoy it. So anyway, but that's just something recently that I've got kind of reacquainted with, and the business, the business part of it now is we're just so overwhelmed with stuff. I'm not getting to enjoy that. And that's okay. I'll get that opportunity again, because it's kind of like you just sit down, and it's kind of like the riding a bicycle thing. You just sit down and you just kind of start warming up. Next thing you know, you're just where you left off the last time, even if it was 2 days ago or 6 months ago.
I got a few more questions left here, and one of them I've been asking a lot of the guests here, and I always was curious. What was the coolest thing you ever crushed?
Coolest thing I ever crushed. Well, there's a fine line between cool and stupid. I crushed a couch one time for a TV commercial and just thought that was the dumbest thing. But the check cleared and I didn't care about it after that. It wasn't so stupid after I got paid. The coolest thing. Boy, I don't know, Cheech. I'd have to think about that a little bit. I crushed cars that it made me sad to crush them. Remember, I crushed a Jag one time that perfectly ran. It was a radio promotion, and the guy drove it there and had to crush it. And I didn't want to do it, but that was the deal, So we crushed this Jag down in Florida. I don't know. I really don't have anything I would say it was cool, that I can remember. A lot of times with these questions, as soon as we get off the air and stuff, you'll think, oh, hell, why there was this or there was that, So that's kind of it. Maybe the Jag was the coolest thing.
We had one guy that was on here, and I asked him about it, and he had to try to dodge like it was like a Mercedes or something like that, and he knew about that car, so he tried to figure out how to go around it. It's like maybe if I can, not crush it, because he wanted to be like, okay, well, what's wrong with this car, and repair it, and then, but the kind of the radio or the dealership was kind of like, no, you got, gotta crush it, or keep on crushing it until the car's no more. And he was kind of bummed out about it.
No. Well,
But
sometimes, and I've been not part of, but I've been at promotions where they would do like drug impound cars, like nice sports cars in California, where they crushed them, and it made you sick to crush them, but they were going to go to a shredder because they were impounded, drug cars. So either going to go to a shredder or it was going to get crushed. So made you sick to see something that nice get, crushed, but that's the deal.
Gotcha. Now, the last two questions is we had some difficulties with the round table, and one of the questions I asked the guys, how was running for USA Motorsports, and how also was the guys running it, like Woody and all those guys? Because a lot of the guys in the round table were talking about you guys were just family.
It was a different atmosphere there. When I started with them, I actually started with them pulling a little bit when I was doing the US Hot Rod stuff before I did monster trucks. And when I got into the monster trucks, I had called them and told them that I had just bought a monster truck, and they said, great, another puller with a monster truck. And then I told them I'd bought the Samson monster truck. And then immediately after I got off the conversation with the general manager there, Steve Wood called me and he says, which one did you buy? And I said, I bought the new one. And then they were desperately looking for the new style Chevrolet body. So he made me an offer to go to Winnipeg, Manitoba, Thanksgiving weekend. And then, so we went to Houston the weekend before that, and things didn't go real well there because it was a open race, and I wasn't ready, didn't want to go. But I didn't do well, which I knew I wasn't. I didn't have any experience. And so the promoter there was mad because I didn't beat Bigfoot. He was mad because I was in a truck for 3 weekends racing against Kenny Kelly and had been in a truck for 3 years. And I didn't race Kenny. I didn't get that far. So anyway, on the way up there, I was thinking, I just bought this truck. What am I going to do? Because these guys, they were going to cut my money and kind of browbeat me down until I proved myself. But when I went to Winnipeg, and I remember it was like 17 degrees. I had to do a truck crush. I had to crush 2 pickups at a car dealership. And Steve Wood was there and Bob Sheffield. And that's where I met Pablo for the first time because he had the Just Showing Off truck. And so they were pulling. So I had the funny car. And in the monster truck, all we were doing was crushing cars, during the pull. I think it was just 2 or 3 trucks there. I don't know Wilmans wasn't there then. And they made me offer to run for them, and they were just, they just made you feel really, really welcomed. And so I did a deal with them to run their series in that winter. They ran out west a lot, so I didn't run. I did go out west a lot because we did Anaheim and San Francisco and stuff for US Hot Rod and Kingdom, but USA did a lot more shows out west, the Salt Lakes and in Denver and Albuquerque's and Phoenix and Tucson. So they just kind of took me in, again, kind of like the Bob George thing, but this was with Steve and them. And we did a 7-week tour out there the very first they they just told me, it says they had two rules: show up on time and keep a truck out of the stands. Anything over that, they didn't care. And so it was just really laid back, and it was working with Jack and Jackie Willman. They were great to travel with, and it was just so much different. And then, one thing kind of elevated. They started doing more stadiums, and then when we got television with TNN, we were definitely part of that. And we weren't doing any freestyle. We were doing like Chicago style racing, straight line racing. Sometimes we did freestyle, but very, very rare. We had nice markets we were in, a lot of nice stadiums. We did Montreal a lot, and I loved Montreal. Did well in Montreal. Did well in Minneapolis. It was just different, and when SFX bought everybody up, it changed, and it did change, and we had to adapt with that. And there's nobody here.
Sorry about that. I guess I hit my button on there. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Sorry about that. My mute button was on. I was about to say.
Did you get all that, or was I just talking to myself?
Nope. We got all that. That was my bad. Yep. We talked about when.
I thought I was on like my phone, where I get to talking for a long time, then I realize there's nobody there.
No. Sorry about that. My question was that time at Minneapolis.
Okay.
Time in Minneapolis, Tim was mentioning about how it was you and him and it was the guys from USA letting you guys know that they were getting bought out, and there was a lot of mixed emotions. And if you remember correctly, how did you feel about them letting you guys know that there was going to be new ownership?
Well, I got a phone call. I didn't get it at the event. I got mine in a personal call. And it came, I know because we always did Minneapolis, usually the weekend of Thanksgiving, because I always remember driving through Chicago on Thanksgiving night on my way to Minneapolis. I know we considered our last official show, and I'm not sure Tim was there, was in Reno, Nevada. Was sometime in March, late March. And then we were going to see, at that time USA did Vegas, and we did Vegas every April. And and there was not like a World Finals or a big deal. It was just a stadium show, but it was a good show to do. And this is before, all the building was retro and stuff with the skyboxes and all that. So it didn't seat like a ton of people. There wasn't anything out there other than the stadium. And we parked our rigs actually where the start line is for World Finals. There was nothing outside of that. That was the whole thing. So I remember the reality set in is we went out there to do that show, and then we were going to go on out to do Fresno, then Santa Rosa, then up to Roseburg, Oregon, then usually Salinas. And then those were still USA shows at that time. But when we rolled into Vegas and they had the US Hot Rod stuff on the doors and all that, that's when the reality set in that USA was no longer. But I mean, I was doing US Hot Rod stuff too. So it wasn't like it was a total change. It was just a different change on the way shows were run. The US Hot Rod shows were more intense, and there was a stress level was a lot higher there. Expectations were a lot higher there. So it's not that we didn't do good there. It was it was just different. I'm just going to use the term different. It was just different.
Gotcha. Before we go, can anyone follow you on social media? I know you have your website and stuff like that.
Well, Rick is getting ready to redo a lot of stuff. We're going through a lot of changes here. We're expanding in a lot of different areas. We are going to be doing more on social media. The thing is, like, I know other shops post things, they're doing this, that, and the other, and we could do that. We just have never kind of accustomed to do that. We're not one to, and I don't mean this in a mean way, we're not one to really kind of boast what we're doing. We just put it out there and hopefully it's received well. Our biggest thing is we're just so overwhelmed with work and stuff. We just don't have the time, but we are expanding that option as far as social media and things like that. So everybody's duties here is so overwhelming as it is now. That time for social media doesn't seem to ever get around to people be able to spend the time to do that. But we know as we need to grow and be a little more diversified, that we're going to have to do that. The thing is, we'll have people send us emails and stuff, and we'll say, you just need to call, and they never call. Today's person that's interested in buying things doesn't really want to talk to somebody. They just want to see it on social media, and then pick it from a website or do this, and we're just not there. And anyway, when they ask a simple question, they think it's a simple question, but it finds out when I start to answer it, it turns out to be a novel, and I just rather they call and I just explain it. And I think sometimes the new generation is too intimidated to do that.
Gotcha. So so you still have your website up, correct?
We still have the website, and that will be going through a few changes there. We're kind of changing some of our servers and stuff like that. We've had it for years, and it's done very well, and we get a lot of traffic on it. A lot of our international business comes from the website. And then, if you kind of punch up monster trucks or that, we usually kind of come up on the first page. So that's by design of a guy by the name of Dwayne Elliott that has done our site for since day one. And he grew up in the tech world of California. So he's reinvented a thing for us to where we do get a lot of traffic through our website.
That's pretty cool, man. Thank you I know we had a little rough patch, but we got that ball taken care of, and it was pretty cool to have you on, Dan, and it was awesome talking to you.
Well, I appreciate it. And I apologize for the low tech on our end. I grew up when we actually used a string and two cans and it worked. But it doesn't seem to work anymore. But we're out here in the country and we have, and I'm not going to be bad mouthing HughesNet because they'll shut us off, but that is our only option is HughesNet. And when the weather isn't cooperative, we can't Skype. There's a lot of things we can't do. There's a new system coming in that they're putting in now that we're supposed to be up and have all the great cool stuff by July. Spectrum, I think. Yeah, Spectrum is what it is. And because we haven't had a high-speed internet through here at all. And so we've always been forced to use the satellite type services. And they work great unless you really got to have them. And then they don't work so well. So we have spent tons and tons of money on equipment trying to make things better. And it just did not work. So we just kind of got away from that. But I enjoy doing these, and I know my answers get long and winded and all that. But
That's
when
perfectly
you've been in the
okay, Dan.
business 30 plus years, there's a lot you can talk about.
Yeah, and
So,
in our podcast, we like to
anyway,
talk about
but
stuff. I was about to say, we like to talk about stuff outside monster trucks, and it was pretty cool hearing about your love of music, and I think that was pretty cool.
When you talk about that, I went to a Boston concert a couple years ago, and Joe Sylvester, my daughter, posted we went to a Boston concert, and he just couldn't believe that I was a Boston fan. So evidently, I looked like a Conway Twitty guy. I don't know, I don't, and that's a funny thing about our shop. Gary, that's been with me forever, and we grew up together. I guess when we sat down and look at it, you think that we would be, bluegrass guys, but Gary has such a knowledge of rock in the late 60s through the 70s that when these youngsters that work for me try to stump him, and they try so hard to stump him on his information on classic rock, and they can't get him. And the one guy that was here one time, it was just funny. He says, he stumped Gary on something. I forget what it was. He stumped Gary on something, and he says, he says, this is such an awesome day that I stumped Gary on a rock and roll trivia question that if I go home tonight and my house is burnt to the ground and all there's left is a few blocks for a foundation, I'm going to still call this a good day.
That's a victory. That's awesome.
Well, Cheech, thanks for having me, and I always enjoy, chatting with you, and I would enjoy doing it again sometimes, whenever you want me.
I think next time we should have you on live. Tim mentioned about that, where I'm trying to get Tim to get that office to be like how Dale Earnhardt Jr. has like memorabilia. I'm trying to get his office to become the new podcast studio. I don't think he's going to go along with it, but I'll try.
I don't know. The thing is with Tim, traveling with Tim, a lot of people think, Tim is like me, old crusty guy with no fun. But, when we travel together, we have the most fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always told Tim, I was like, we're a team full of movie quotes, song lyrics, and sarcasm. And I'm like, that's pretty much it. That's very much what we're doing. And sometimes you got to have that,
Well, that's the thing is, I always say I am the guy with the most useless information that you'll ever need.
There was one time me and Kurt were going down, and Tim told us a story about him and his brother John and his dad, and John says this comment, and his dad goes to John saying, right now I don't need a smart ass, and John answers back saying, well, if you need one, let me know.
Yeah. It's funny is when you talk about John, Tim says they spend most of the time apologizing for whatever John said, and it's kind of like the right to remain silent, but not the ability. So, I've been around Tim and his family for, 30 plus years, and I consider Tim to be one of my closest friends, and we talk at least 2 or 3 times a week, and we always have. We have a lot in common. We both kind of started with not much, and we've been fortunate and blessed in this industry to grow and look back and see that we have made achievements, and so no matter whatever it is, I always consider the Halls a big part of my extended family.
Now, I know we were going, but I brought this up in my head, and this is the last thing. And I've been, I've met this guy before his passing, and I know you were with Team Bigfoot for a while, and I was just wondering if you have any Ron Bachman stories, because all I heard is some awesome, funny stories of that guy, and some cool things about him?
Oh gosh, when it comes to Ron, Ron was one of my guys, and when I was there and after I was there, um, and we traveled and did fair shows together, and oh gosh, there would just be so many stories. But kind of in a nutshell, um, the he and I was going to Crown Point, Indiana, and I was still working at Foot at the time, and he was driving Bigfoot 6, and we were going to go up there and meet. I think Gary Porter was going to be there and David Morris. That was part of our little 4-truck show. And the air conditioning wasn't working in my tractor or something. And he had the Blue Motorhome was his hauler at the time. And we were going up I-57. We didn't leave the shop till after work. And no, I tell you what it was. He had already left, and he says, "I'll see you out at the truck stop, 76 truck stop at Effingham." So I went ahead and finished my day working there, and I met him out there. Oh, gosh, it was probably 10 o'clock that night. And he was in there. And Ron was a huge video game player, and so he was in there playing video game stuff like that. And so we're going up the highway, and we get to a rest area and decide, well, we'll just stay at this rest area. And he said, well, just jump in here. So I got in the motorhome and I opened up the door. You could see your breath. It was so cold. And I said, Ron, it's too cold in here. He said, oh, this is just perfect. And so I crawled up there in the top and I must have had every blanket that was in the damn thing and bundled up. And literally you could see your breath. My nose was cold. But we were just so tired and I went to bed. Well, something happened to the generator and it shut off. And I said, Ron, the generator shut off. That's all right, And it just seemed like within a matter of minutes, it went from 40 degrees in there to 100 degrees. And next thing you know, we're throwing blankets and everything out, but we're too lazy to get up to start the generator. We just lay there and suffer. And then we went on, to Crown Point, Indiana to do our show. We were there like 3 days and stuff. But Ron would, oh God, he was just a gentle giant, and I dearly miss him. And one time he said, man, I got to get on a road trip. You got something you need me to do? And I said, well, Ron, my transporter, at the time we had the high-tech transporter, a new one. I said, I think he needs to go back to Cleveland to get some work done on it. I'll take it up there. So he got in this, he took it up there, and they called me. Or I called up there to see if he got there. He said, oh, he's here. He says, where did you get this guy? And he says, he come in here, and he says, I'm here for Dan Patrick. And he says, he needs this done. And they go, whatever you want, just don't hurt us. So they just thought Ron was just this big bruiser when they realized that Ron was just a big teddy bear, But, they just goes on and on and on, the Ron stories. And we always joke that Ron was the only guy, because when he would shift the transmission, he would like almost power shift it in the semi. And we always joke that he was the only truck driver we knew that could carry the front tires clear across the scales. So when he would leave the scales. So, but that was, I just loved him and just cherished, all the time I spent with him. He was just great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome ending to this. And, it was pretty cool to have you on, Dan. I will love to have you back on and we'll tell more stories. How about that?
That's fine.
I think I want to have one episode with
stories.
I like to have one episode with you and Tim. I think that Tim was excited to have you on and tell stories about the USA days and stuff like that, and have David Morris on and that'd be cool.
Yeah, I always loved traveling with David Morris. He always added that Southern charm or Southern attitude to everything we did. And I'll tell you this real quick story. He and I was coming back from Buffalo, New York. We stopped at a service plaza like 2 o'clock in the morning. Went in there and they had those scales. You put a quarter in and you can weigh yourself. And I put a quarter in and I weighed myself and wasn't really happy with it. And So he puts a quarter in, gets up there, stands on it, and we look at each other at the same time and go, "Them bastards are broke." we didn't like the number. We didn't like the number, so we just figured that bastard was broke.
He told David told a story about how he was helping the Hall brothers out, and he tells Mark and Tim, "Let me get my fine china out," and it was all tools from China. He said, "Let me get my fine china."
One thing that David told me one time, he was fixing to do something. I said, "What do you mean you're fixing to do something?" He said, "Well, what's fixing mean?" He said, "Well, fixing means where he was from. You're thinking about possibly doing something maybe in the near future, but you're not really ready to do it yet."
That's the way of fixing it. So he was thinking about doing it, not committing, but thinking.
Yeah. So you're just, you're not committing to anything. You're just thinking the commitment that you're thinking about doing it, but more likely you're not going to do it. So
that's great. Well, Dan, thank you so much for being on, and it was awesome to have you on. Thank you so much. We're rocking this out for almost 2 hours long, Dan. You're welcome. Take care.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Well, guys, that was Dan Patrick from Patrick Enterprises and the Samson Monster Truck. Once again, we're gonna have Blake Shipman on. Once again, he's a video photographer for Monster Jam. Once again, I want to thank Joe Sylvester of High Octane Coffee, Jason and Fred from J Concepts, John from JB Scale Graphics, Chris from 6B Apparel, Nick from Back Channel Productions. He just mentioned about he will be at the Horsepower Park at Joey's High Octane Outlaw Thunder Drags. Go check that out this Saturday at Horsepower Park in North Carolina. So once again, I'm plug that for Joey. So his Outlaw Thunder Drags. Go ahead and take a look at that stuff. It's going to be starting to rock out. Also, once again, Chris from 6B Apparel, our crew shirts are on sale. New waves and old school crew shirts, $100 a pop. Go ahead and take a look. We got stickers coming up too. Also some other merchandise in the horizon. Once again, also Bradley Shaw Designs. Take a look at his stuff that he's about to do for Renegade Monster Truck Tour. That's about to start also. We're gonna push probably the week after Blake. We're gonna probably we still have the Crush This shirts, by the way. You have to go belowthecollar.com and order yourself one. Once again, 25 shirts sold. We get a new design. And I think I have one that's going to be called Grandma Gang. So it's going to be funny. It has to do with eggnog. So anyway, and Brad. Anyway, once again, check that out. We're probably hit up one of the superstars from the Renegade Tour from 2 weeks from now. Let you know sooner after Blake's interview, but he will be on. So next week, hopefully Brad will be back with us. And once again, on social media, follow us at Crush This on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Follow me, Dan Cheech Agosh, on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram too. Go ahead and take a look at that. I have a Twitter. I only follow NASCAR and NHRA. I also have a Snapchat too, but it is what it is. RCs, I have my Agosh RC page on Facebook and Instagram also. So, and take a look at Bradshaw Designs too. So, once again, guys, thank you for being on this episode. This is going to probably take a little longer for the audio episode, definitely because it's past 2 hours long. So we'll try to convert this and get this going. But if not, we're on Facebook and YouTube if you guys want to watch it. So once again, thank you for our sponsors. Thank you for all you fans. And once again, message us for feedback, any ideas or anything like that. Please message us. We'll follow through and watch what needs to be going on, and it'd be pretty cool to have you guys on. The whole time I'm looking at this screen, my screen that I look at is right here. I should be looking right there at the camera. I'm sorry, guys, for doing that to you. And my Blue Yeti microphone. Someone says, one of the big mic. I think it's from that camera, but it is what it is. But guys, thank you so much for being on. Like I said, with Brad, he always says, keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up. Peace, guys. Have a good one.